A dime. Not a quarter, not a nickel, a dime. That's the size of the hole a mouse needs to walk straight into your kitchen like he pays the mortgage. I sat at my kitchen table one November night and listened to something scratching behind the stove for the third night running. Drove me half crazy. Cost me $11 in one weekend to shut the whole house down to him, and I haven't heard a scratch in that wall since. Steel wool and a little brown bottle of peppermint oil. That's most of it. I'll get to the rest in a minute. No poison in any of this, no pellets, no bait boxes, no monthly contract, no fella in a polo shirt leaning on your door frame writing you a $150 invoice for the privilege of doing it again next month. And nothing I'm about to tell you is going to hurt your dog, your cat, your kids, or the honeybees out by the fence row. That part matters to me. That's the whole point of doing it this way. I'm Walt. I'm not a salesman, and I'm not the white truck that pulls up every 30 days. I'm just a fellow with a beagle and a long-suffering wife who got tired of paying people to poison the same house twice a year, and went and learned the old way our grandmothers already knew. Now before we go any further, let me tell you something about mice and the pest control business, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. A mouse problem is a one-time fix. You seal the house, you knock the nest down, they're gone. Done. Over. That is a terrible thing to try to sell on a monthly contract at $60 to $200 a visit. You cannot bill a man every 30 days for a problem that stays solved. So what gets sold instead is them little black bait stations around the foundation, refilled on a schedule, billed on a schedule. The mice eat the bait, crawl off, die somewhere in your wall or out in the yard where the neighbor's dog finds them. And the cycle keeps right on going because nobody ever closed the front door the mice walked in through to begin with. I'm not mad at the technicians. Most of them are good people doing what their company tells them. I'm telling you how the business works so you understand why nobody ever sat you down and taught you the simple version. The simple version is what every farm wife in these hills knew 100 years ago, and I'm going to walk you through it in the exact order I do it, with what it cost me at the hardware store. 3 steps. That's the whole thing. Now first I gotta talk you down off the hardware store aisle, because that's where most folks go wrong before they even start. You see a mouse on the kitchen floor, you panic, and you drive into town and come home with a can of spray, a tub of pellets, and one of them little ultrasonic plug-in gizmos with the blue light. I want you to skip every bit of it. The spray does almost nothing to a mouse. The pellets kill him slow and mean and dangerous to anything that finds the body. And the ultrasonic dealies, I had one plugged into the outlet in my barn, and a mouse built a nest behind the plug. I'm not making that up. Right behind the thing that was supposed to scare him off. Save your money. All right, step 1. The trade word for it is exclusion. The plain word for it is shutting the doors they're already using. A house mouse can squeeze through a hole the size of a dime. Let that sit a second because folks hear it and don't believe it. A dime. If you can poke a pencil through a gap in your siding, a mouse walks through it like a barn door. So, Saturday morning, you grab a flashlight and a bag of steel wool and you walk the outside of your house slow, on your knees if you have to. My brother-in-law Dale walks his on his feet and wonders why he still has mice. You gotta get down where the mouse lives. Look at every place something comes through the wall. The dryer vent, the AC line set where the copper goes through, the gas line, the water spigot, the cable coming in, that little gap at the corner of the garage door, the weep holes in the brick where the siding meets the foundation, where the foundation meets the sill plate up top. A mouse doesn't climb a blank wall and pick a spot at random. He follows a pipe. He follows a wire. He follows a shadow line down to the ground. So look where things enter and you'll find his door. Now here's where folks get it wrong, and I did too the first time. You see the gap and you grab a can of that expanding foam off the shelf and shoot it full and stand back like you just won something. A mouse will chew through that foam in one night. I've seen it. Looks like somebody dug a tunnel through a marshmallow. You want steel wool, the coarse kind. Copper, plain steel, doesn't matter much. Jam it deep in the gap, pack it tight as you can get it, and if it bothers you to look at it, you can cover it over with foam or caulk for the eyes, but the steel wool is what does the work. The mouse can't chew steel. His teeth won't take it. That's the whole trick, and it's been the whole trick for about 100 years. A bag of steel wool runs about $4 or $5 at any hardware store in the country. One bag will do an average house. That step alone, done careful, will stop about 70% of mouse problems cold before you do anything else. Don't forget the inside either. Open the cabinet under your kitchen sink right now and look where that drain pipe goes through the wall. I'll bet you a cup of coffee there's a gap there you could drive a Buick through. Pack it. Same under the bathroom sink. Same behind the washing machine. Same where the refrigerator water line comes up through the floor. Every one of those is a hallway. Pack 'em all. That's step one. Now step two, and step two is the one you came here for. What do mice hate the most? Peppermint. Real peppermint oil. The strong stuff out of the little brown bottle. Not the candy, and not the toothpaste. Now I gotta be straight with you, because if I'm not, none of the rest of this is worth listening to. Peppermint by itself will not solve a mouse problem. If you set out cotton balls and call it done, and you haven't sealed up a single hole, the mice will get used to the smell and keep coming. Anybody who tells you peppermint alone is the answer is selling you a bottle of peppermint. But peppermint is part of the system. After you've packed the holes, peppermint works, and I'll tell you why. A mouse lives by his nose. His eyes are terrible, almost useless. He gets around your house by smell, mostly by following the scent trail he laid down himself with his own urine along the baseboards. That's his road map. Strong peppermint oil wipes that map clean. He can't read it anymore, he gets confused. He backs out, he goes hunting an easier house, your neighbor's most likely. Sorry neighbor, tell him to watch this video. Well, here's how I do it. One little bottle of essential oil that says 100% pure peppermint on the label, $6 or $7. Cotton balls out of the bathroom cabinet, the ones your wife uses to take her makeup off. 10 or 12 drops on a cotton ball, one behind the stove, one under the sink, one in the back corner of the pantry, one in the garage by the door that comes into the house, one in the basement near the sill plate, one up in the attic by the soffit vent. You'll smell it strong for about a week, then it fades back. Refresh them every 2 weeks. That's all there is to it. Don't waste your bottle spraying the whole baseboard down. That's not how it works. You concentrate it at the entry points and the corners where they like to run. Mice hug the walls. They don't sashay across an open floor if they can help it. Put the cotton ball where the wall meets the wall. One word of caution, and this one's important. Keep the bottle of oil away from your cats. Cats don't process essential oils the way you and I do, and concentrated peppermint can make them sick. A cotton ball back in the corner behind the fridge is fine. Your cat's not going to find it, and if he does, he's not going to lick a cotton ball, but don't dab the oil straight onto his bed or rub it on the floor where he naps. That's just common sense. Alright, step 3. Step 3 is for the mice that are already inside the walls, because here's what nobody tells you when you see that first one scoot across the kitchen tile. If you've seen one mouse, you do not have one mouse. You have a nest, maybe 6, maybe 12. A female mouse can have a litter every 3 weeks. The babies are breeding by the time they're 2 months old. So one mouse on the kitchen floor in October means a small town in your wall by Christmas. That's just the math of it. You got to clear out the ones already living rent-free in there. And you got 2 choices, poison or snap traps. I'll tell you flat out, if you got any pets in the house, any kids, any chickens in the yard, any hawks circling the property, you do not use poison. Not ever. Hear me on that. The bait in those black boxes is an anticoagulant. The mouse eats it, wanders off, dies somewhere in your wall or out in the yard. Your dog finds the dead mouse, eats him, and now your dog's belly is full of the same poison, secondhand. Dale did this. Dale's golden retriever ate a poisoned mouse out by the woodpile, and Dale got a $1,000 vet bill stacked on top of the monthly bill. He was already paying the bug guy. Don't be Dale. Snap traps. The plain old wood Victor trap with the copper trigger. They've been $1.50 a piece at the hardware store my whole life. Get a dozen. And here's where most folks mess up. They bait with cheese. Cheese is for cartoons. Use peanut butter, a pea-sized smear pressed down hard into the trigger so the mouse has to work at it, and set the bar off trying to lick it loose. Set the traps along the wall, trigger end touching the baseboard, the trap pointing perpendicular straight out from the wall. Because remember, the mouse runs the wall, not the middle of the room. He's going to come right past that trigger. And here's a tip, set them in pairs. 2 traps about 6 inches apart along the same wall, because every now and again a mouse will see a trap, jump over it, and land smack on the second one. They're not as dumb as we like to think. Set them where you've seen droppings, where you've heard the scratching at night, behind the stove, under the sink, the pantry corner, the garage, the attic, the basement. 12 traps set right will clean out a normal house in about a week to 10 days. Check them every morning over coffee. If a trap sits 3 nights with the peanut butter untouched, pick it up and move it. The mouse is telling you he doesn't run that path. Listen to him. When you go a solid week with no catches after a week of catching, you're done. Pull the traps. Keep the peppermint going. Watch the corners for fresh droppings. Now I want to be honest about one more thing, because honesty is the only reason any of this is worth your time. There is one situation where you call a professional and you don't mess with it yourself. That's a serious rat problem. Roof rats, Norway rats, droppings showing up in large amounts in your attic insulation. Rats are smarter than mice, they're bigger, they chew wires and start house fires, and a big rat problem in the walls is past what a homeowner ought to take on by himself. In that case, a one-time exclusion job from a good local outfit is worth the money, not a contract. A one-time job, you call and you ask specifically for exclusion work, sealing the house up. If all they want to sell you is a monthly contract with bait stations, you hang up polite and you call somebody else. For mice, though, in a regular house on a regular street, you can do this yourself this weekend. I promise you that, and I don't promise much. Yeah. Let me say a word about why this matters past your wallet, because it does. Every time somebody puts out rodent bait, something downstream eats the dying mouse. An owl, a hawk, a fox, the neighbor's cat. That's how poison moves through a place. It doesn't politely stop at the mouse. My grandfather used to say, if you can't see where the poison ends up, you got no business putting it down. He was right. And those monthly perimeter sprays around the foundation, a lot of those active ingredients are rough on bees and rough on the little stuff in the soil that keeps your yard worth standing in. I'm not telling you to be scared of it. I'm telling you there's just no reason to use it on a problem that steel wool and a brown bottle of peppermint will solve. The old way is cheaper, it's safer, it lasts longer, and it doesn't take anything else down with it. That's the whole deal in one breath. So here's your weekend, plain as I can put it. Saturday morning, flashlight, bag of steel wool, walk the outside of the house, every gap, every pipe, every vent packed tight. Saturday afternoon, you come inside, under every sink, behind every appliance, anywhere a pipe or a wire comes through a wall, same steel wool, same packing. Saturday evening, after supper, you set out cotton balls with 10 drops of peppermint on each one, corners and entry points where the wall meets the wall. Sunday morning, you set a dozen snap traps with a pea of peanut butter along the walls where you've seen sign. Pairs, 6 inches apart, trigger to the baseboard. Check them with your coffee every morning for a week. The bill, bag of steel wool, $4 or $5, bottle of peppermint oil, 6 or 7, dozen Victor snap traps, 18 or 20. You're at about $30 one time and your mouse problem is over. Now compare that to $150 a month, 12 months a year, every year, forever. That's the math. The contract folks don't want you sitting down and doing at your own kitchen table. I put the whole system, every pest you'll run into around a house and a yard, every recipe and measurement, and the exact shopping list into a guide I call the Chemical-Free Pest Bible. Link's right under this video if you want it. It's the same book I'd hand my own brother, which I did. Whether he reads it is another story. Now do me a favor before you click off. Down in the comments, tell me what's getting into your house and what state you're sitting in. Mice, ants, roaches, wasps, whatever's bothering you. I read every one of them, and I'll point you to the right episode. Next time out, we're going to talk about carpenter ants, the ones that don't bite you, but they eat the frame of your house from the inside while you're sleeping, and the cheap little trick out of your own kitchen cabinet that stops them cold. Until then, sleep easy and listen to your walls. They'll tell you when they're empty.